Hello friends, today we have 4 intriguing stories for you, but the 4th story stands out in particular, characterized by intense horror elements. Stay with us until the end to discover what this thrilling story is about, and get ready for an unforgettable journey into the world of mystery and suspense. My boyfriend and I sought a serene camping retreat at the gorge, aiming for an intimate escape, unlike our usual group outings. As we began to unload our gear, 2 suspicious figures emerged from the trailhead, casting wary glances before retreating to a vintage Volkswagen camper van. Though their presence unnerved me, I pressed on, confident in my familiarity with the terrain from past visits. Surveying the area, I selected a secluded spot, hoping for privacy. However, as evening descended, distant shouts hinted at another presence nearby. In the midst of setting up, a stranger approached, offering to sell firewood at an inflated price, despite our forested surroundings. His story, claiming to be a solitary camper for nearly a month, contradicted the evidence of multiple occupants at his campsite. His erratic tales of loneliness, a journey from Pennsylvania, and survival on the land raised further suspicions. His insistence on aiding our camp setup only heightened my unease. With darkness enveloping us, his lingering presence, coupled with the nocturnal sounds of rustling foliage, intensified my anxiety. Despite my instincts urging departure, my boyfriend persuaded me to stay, with the intention of spending the night. The night's serenity was repeatedly shattered by eerie sounds around our campsite. With every snap and rustle, my dread grew, culminating in the realization that our mysterious visitor was indeed watching us. Hastily, we packed our essentials, leaving behind our newly acquired tarp to mask our exit. As we prepared to depart, the stranger's chilling voice echoed, urging us to remain. This sinister encounter, riddled with inconsistencies, left us fearing the worst. Alerting the authorities the next morning, I was grateful our ordeal ended with just a missing tarp, pondering the mysteries and dangers of the secluded wilderness. After completing college, I embarked on a solo backpacking adventure in the remote Canadian wilderness for a couple of weeks. Just to give you an idea of the isolation, I was miles away from any civilization. The closest town was a 3-hour bus journey. Throughout the entire trip, I encountered only one other individual, and that too from a distance. He was paddling a canoe. During those 7 days, I carried along a few disposable cameras since digital photography wasn't as prevalent back then. Upon returning home and developing the film, most of the images were typical nature scenes. However, as I reviewed the contents of my first camera, I was shocked to find 2 photos of myself, seemingly taken while I was asleep inside my tent, cocooned in my sleeping bag. This discovery deeply unsettled me, leading to a profound sense of distress. To this day, I remain perplexed about how those images came to be. Since then, I've avoided camping altogether. Even at home, I ensure my bedroom door is open but keep the curtains tightly shut, haunted by the lingering suspicion that the unseen photographer might still be observing me. Last summer, a couple of friends and I embarked on a camping trip by the Willamette River. After a challenging hike deep into the woods, we indulged in night fishing, played music, and drank until everything seemed amusing. As the night wore on, around 2 a.m., my friend and I retired to our tent while the other 2 shared another. Initially, we chuckled at the distant laughter coming from the other tent. However, the relentless laughter soon became more annoying than amusing. When we shouted for them to quiet down, they responded, claiming the laughter wasn't from them. In my intoxicated state, I realized the peculiarity of a lone individual laughing so deep in the woods at that hour. The laughter, distinctively male and belonging to someone possibly in their 30s or 40s, gradually approached our campsite. Its solitary nature was unsettling, devoid of the usual banter accompanying a group. The laughter, strangely eerie, seemed incomplete. Something felt off, a sentiment challenging to convey unless experienced firsthand. Suddenly, the laughter ceased. Given the dense forest floor, the absence of footsteps was puzzling. Moments later, the palpable silence was interrupted by a rustling against our tent's fabric. Through the moonlit darkness, we discerned the silhouette of a hand pressing against the tent. Our scream shattered the silence, and in a panic, we bolted from the tent, our friends in tow. Navigating through the dense woods in sheer terror, we miraculously stumbled upon our car. The adrenaline-fueled sprint took a toll, causing me to vomit. While I don't endorse reckless behavior, our panic state compelled me to drive us away from that haunting location. To this day, the encounter remains the most chilling experience of my life, a mystery unsolved, leaving us to wonder about the identity and intentions of the unseen intruder. During a Boy Scout campout when I was 15, an unsettling incident took place. My tent mate backed out at the last minute, leaving me to set up and sleep in the tent by myself. After a tiring day of hiking, the evening had set in by the time we returned to camp. Setting up a tent alone wasn't easy, and as darkness fell, my efforts were proving challenging. Eventually, someone came to assist, and we proceeded to have dinner. Later, the traditional campfire stories were told, and everyone turned in for the night. Alone in my tent, I initially found solace in the extra space. However, I was jolted awake by the distinct sound of footsteps circling my tent. Assuming it was a fellow scout, I called out. The footsteps paused briefly before retreating into the woods. Relieved, I tried to sleep but was soon disturbed by the same eerie footsteps. Annoyed and concerned, I unzipped the tent to confront the intruder. Instead of a familiar face, I was met with the gaze of a tall, intimidating man in his mid-30s. His unsettling grin silenced my scream, and he gestured for me to remain quiet. Reacting instinctively, I dashed to my scoutmaster's tent, frantically explaining the situation. With urgency, both scoutmasters approached my tent, armed with a hunting rifle. Although they didn't find the man, they discovered his footprints circling my tent. As a precaution, all tents were moved close together for safety. The trip was cut short, and we returned home. That harrowing experience has kept me away from camping ever since.
Thank you for watching these stories. We hope you enjoyed them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more exciting content. See you in new stories.